If your work includes online calls and conferences, then you really need to know how to always look good on video calls for Zoom, FaceTime, Skype, and any other online meetups. You remember these days when you get on Zoom call and you look like a panda with the dark circles around your eyes because of a terrible light, or when you download the call, the audio sounds bad. From now on, forget about this. I got a brilliant guest for you today, Larry Becker, who spent more than 2 decades on camera. Larry produces business videos for clients and coaches entrepreneurs and executives to be their best on camera. What I like about him is that he makes all that technical stuff simple and very effective, even for non-tech people. Well, let's pretend I'm your client and I come to you and I ask you, Larry, please coach me, please help me to be stunning on camera. I want to look good on camera. What would be the first thing that you would talk about?
You know, there are a handful of things because it's looking and sounding good on camera. Everybody always says, I want to look good on camera. But really what they mean is, I want to be good on camera. So part of it is your language. Part of it is your presence and your eye contact. So you and I are having this video meeting right now, and I noticed you're great at this. You're looking right at the camera lens, and that's really important. And a lot of people look away from the camera lens because they want to see the monitor. They want to see what they look like. They want to look around the screen and see what other people look like on camera. And the best way to connect in these videos is to look at your camera lens. Even though it's a little weird or uncomfortable, it comes across better. Lighting is important. You need to make sure that you don't have sunken eyes and shady eyes, and so we call it raccoon face. You don't want to have a really hard side light. So lighting is part of it. What you're wearing is part of it. Your scene and how your background, as long as it doesn't have lots of distractions in it, that's going to be important. And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is just about every camera, unless you go to a high-end professional camera, just about every camera you use to connect with people on the internet, on Zoom calls, on Facebook Live, a lot of people using cameras are using webcams. So if it's a webcam or if it's an iPhone cam or a tablet cam or your built-in laptop camera, all of those have wide-angle lenses. And so when you get kind of close to a wide angle lens, all of a sudden you turn into a big round balloon head. And so if you sit back, that's one thing. The next thing is get your camera up to eye level. And it's kind of uncomfortable because a lot of people end up putting it on top of, they'll put a laptop on top of a stack of books just to get the camera eye level. But when you do that, it looks so much better. And a lot of people, even looking at the image, don't know why it looks better. They just know it does look better. So that's a big chunk of it. I tell people you don't want to wear busy patterns in your shirt because that can interfere with the camera's image sensor, and then your shirt can look like it's vibrating or electric, and you don't want to do that. So, and also then, and this is one, I actually did a little tips video on this. The webcams that we all have don't have many manual settings. In most cases, they don't have any manual settings. And so what webcams try to do is they look at the whole scene and they say, this is how much light is coming in, so I'm going to balance the exposure how I think it should look. And if there's a really bright light source, so I've seen people set up their webcam so that you're looking out the back. Behind them, you're looking out a sliding glass door and you see outside and you see a beautiful image outside. But then the person who's on camera is just a silhouette because the camera is trying to balance the amount of light, and it's saying, man, there's so much light coming from the outside in this image that I have to darken things down. And so the person talking on camera turns into just a dark silhouette. And that's an extreme example, but there are others. And so what I find is with an inexpensive webcam, I set up the lighting the best that I can. I put the camera in the best position that I can, so I have eye level contact. And then I look at it for a test image. And if my skin is too dark, if I'm too dark, I don't turn up lights. First thing I do is I change shirts and I try a lighter colored shirt, and that it makes all the difference sometimes. So try a lighter shirt. In your environment, you might need a darker shirt, you might need a lighter shirt. It depends on your overall environment to make the light that's coming into the camera more balanced.
Yeah, that's so interesting, especially with the short. I would never think about it, even if I'm a photographer and I've been in this for a long time. Like the videos, it's just like you put a camera or you use your web camera and that's it. Well, when you talk about camera and the lighting, do you recommend to buy any specific equipment, or people can use just what they have, like their camera and the light bulb from their apartment?
Well, things are changing and it really depends on the person. So if all you need to do, and by the way, these days it's kind of hard to buy anything, especially webcams. They're sold out everywhere. But it really depends on what you want to do. So if what you're looking for, if what you hope to do is create a good high-end promotional video, maybe something like a welcome video. Hi, welcome to ABC Corporation, and introduce you and maybe a couple of the key people and your products and services for your website, then you probably want to go with something a little better than a webcam. If you're connecting for Zoom meetings, most people are expecting webcam, but that's where you get the thing up to eye level and you do what you can to control the lighting. Then as far as do you need to buy anything special? Maybe. You might have good enough lighting for what you need. You might be able to get away with what I would call a hardware store clamp lamp. You see these in shops all the time. So in the garage, you've got this aluminum half circle, and you put a light bulb in there and you can clamp it anywhere. So it's like a work light for your garage. You can use those and what I would call a daylight balanced light bulb from the hardware store, from Walmart, from Home Depot. You get up a light bulb and screw it in there, and the light bulb packaging actually will say warm or it'll say daylight. And instead of warm, sometimes it says tungsten. And as a photographer, that means it's a warm light. It's going to have kind of orangey tint to it. And a daylight is supposed to be pure, clean, bright white light. And so then you put those in your environment. And the main thing is, now as photographers, a lot of people try and shape light on the face. So you get one of the pretty lighting patterns for portraiture. You don't have to do that with video, especially with business video. All you have to do is really make sure that the face is well lit, but not overlit. You want to make sure that you have enough light so that there's not shade in the eye socket or really harsh shadows on one side of the face or the other. But you don't need to worry about shaping the shadows and the light on the face. You do want to make sure that it's not so bright that you end up with a shiny patch or shiny patches or the edge of your face really, really extra bright. And the way that you really do that, and I'm talking with high-end cameras or inexpensive webcams, the way that you really do that is you need to really control the light in your space. So I have friends that I'm trying to coach through this stuff, and they set up a couple desk lamps and they're bouncing them off a piece of poster board so they get a nice big white light. And then they've got an outside light that's also adding to the scene, and it's overpowering. That outside light causes really bright halos and shine. And so I would have them go put a piece of poster board in their window or shut the blinds. If you've got blinds, shut the blinds so that you can really control all the lighting in your environment, and then have it just kind of balanced out. Make sure you don't have shady eyes, and you should be okay to go. But as far as buying equipment, yeah, it's going to depend on the types of videos that you're doing. For Zoom, I would say no, just a webcam and some house lights, maybe a lamp without a lamp shade. And then for more professional videos, yeah, you might need to buy some inexpensive stuff, but it's very doable.
What would you recommend to buy?
It depends on the camera that you've got access to. So let's say you've got a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, and you're going to be shooting some videos for your office. You can get some flat light panels that are 1 foot by 1 foot, and you can get those at Amazon for 79, 80 bucks. And a couple of those, you're going to be just fine. And the place that you put them, this is pretty important, you put them at a 45-degree angle away from you and 45 degrees up from where you are facing the camera. So they're essentially somewhere near where the camera is. They're back away from you, and they're at a 45-degree angle each side of you and a 45-degree angle up. So it's kind of pointing down at you, lighting your face that way. And the reason that I say put it there, obviously you'll need light stands for that. And then maybe some LED, $70 or $80 LEDs from Amazon. It'll look good. Those are still in stock. I checked on Amazon recently, and they're still in stock. And that'll look good. And the light is dimmable, controllable, and it is that pure white daylight light that I was talking about.
Do you have any tips, like when we look at the camera, let's say the web camera on my laptop? Right now I'm looking at the camera, so on the video I will look at you in the final video, but
Right.
staring there for half an hour, my eyes got just tired. And I've noticed that so many times. Any tips on that? What can we do?
Well, it's a little bit harder when you're doing what you and I are doing, which is we're having conversation on the web. So I would say with Zoom calls, it's a little tough. And with something like that, but with production videos. So I do tips and tricks videos, I do training videos, I do commercials for clients. And when I do that, I actually have a DSLR. I have a Canon 80D that I use as my primary camera, but I make sure that that camera is at least 6 or 7 feet away from me and then zoomed in. So I'm framed correctly. It's not like a wide angle lens. I've got a lens that will go from wide angle to a very tight zoom. So I go to about a medium zoom on me, and I put the camera 6 or so feet away from me. And then what I do is right below the camera, I have a special mount that clamps onto my tripod, and it holds my iPad. And I use teleprompter software. So I have an iPad, I have a $20 teleprompter program. And then the way that you work this teleprompter program, and there are different ones that work different ways, but the way that I work this teleprompter program, I have a Bluetooth wireless keyboard. And I can start and stop the teleprompter scrolling by just touching the space bar. Now, I talk with my hands on camera, so I can't touch a space bar on a Bluetooth keyboard with my hands. So I always take my shoes off, and I put my keyboard on the floor right in front of me, and I start and stop the teleprompter. And I set the speed of the scrolling of the teleprompter faster than I can read. So that way I just start and stop, start and stop, start and stop, and it scrolls the text. And because the teleprompter is just below, it's clamped onto my tripod, just below the camera lens, and because I'm 6 feet away, you can't tell, number one, you can't tell that I'm reading. Number two, you can't tell that I'm looking 4 inches right below the camera. Now, if I'm actually really close to the camera, like we are with a webcam, you're much closer. If you're looking right below the webcam and you're much closer, it's harder to get away with. But I have done it on some meetings. I've done some interviews where I'm on a webcam and I bring my notes up to the very top of my computer screen. And then right above that is where my webcam is mounted, right on top of my computer monitor. And so then I will scroll with my mouse on my computer desktop, and I'll scroll and have that text right below, and people can barely tell that I'm not making eye contact with the camera. But for you and me, it's a little tougher. We have to mentally think hard about having this conversation. Now, the nice thing is I don't have to refer to any notes. You and I are having a legitimate spur of the moment conversation. We're just talking. And so I'm just looking at this little round piece of glass in my camera screen or my camera lens, and you're doing the same thing. We're just talking and listening.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Usually I prepare for the interview, for most of my interviews, and you can check my YouTube videos. That's exactly what I do. I put the notes right below that camera on my laptop, and my eyes a little bit higher than the, like just a little bit higher than the level of the webcam. So when I look at it, it looks like I look at the camera, not at my notes. But here we just have the conversation and we can just look at this little circle or big circle, whatever you have there.
Sure. But it does work, and it makes it's so important to be looking at that little round piece of glass, as uncomfortable as it makes us. But here's something really nice. If you're doing a produced video, so like a video to welcome people to your company and to your website, and you're looking right at that round piece of glass, all you have to do is start the video by looking there. And then you can look away and look at some notes, because if you start on camera and you've got this nice smile and you say, "Hi, welcome to my company and welcome to my video, and I'm going to take you through this in the next couple of minutes," and then you start describing your company, well, during the editing process, you cut away to other footage, other images, other still images of the things that you're talking about. So the camera isn't on you the whole video. It's capturing your audio the whole time, but it's only on you at the very beginning, at the very end, and a couple of places in the middle. And so for the rest of it, you use the cutaway footage, the cutaway stills, we call that B-roll, and you just drop in B-roll and it makes you look like a pro on camera, and you can look away a lot.
Yeah, so you can put it something like a slideshow and then do even a voiceover. So you don't need to film the whole video. That will be even much easier.
Exactly.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Larry, what about the audio? We talk a lot about the video. What about the audio?
I'm so glad you brought that up. Audio is mission critical, and a lot of people don't realize it when they very first get into doing video, how important audio is. But it doesn't have to be expensive. One of the keys to good audio is to make sure that you have a microphone that's plugged into your either computer or your camera. And if you're doing Zoom calls, you want it plugged into your computer. If you're doing recorded videos for promoting your business, you want to plug it into the camera. And there is one microphone, and it gets kind of complicated. There are little variations in the type of connector. Two connectors look really, really similar to one another, but one is designed just to work with smartphones. The other one is designed to work with computers and cameras. And it's what we call in the US an 1/8-inch microphone jack. It's also referred to as a 3.5 millimeter microphone jack. And when you buy microphones, a lot of times you need an adapter, because if the mic that you bought is intended to work with smartphones and now you're plugging it into your camera, it's not going to work right without an adapter. Well, the mic that I recommend is $20 in the US from Amazon, and it has a built-in adapter, and it runs on one very affordable button cell battery, and it has a 20-foot microphone cord. So you don't need wireless. You can plug in and have 20 feet of cord between you and the audio source that you're plugged into, whether it's your computer or your camera. And the mic that I recommend, and I don't make anything for saying this, is the Movo LV1. So it's MOVO LV1, and it's $20 in the US from Amazon. And the nice thing is it has a little switch. It's got a little battery capsule on it, 3 feet down on the cord. And then the rest of the cord, the other 17 feet, just runs to your camera or your computer. But that little capsule has a switch on it, and it's not an on-off switch. It's a 2-position switch that says, I'm using it with a camera or I'm using it with a smartphone. And you just flip the switch back and forth. And the camera needs the battery power and the smartphone doesn't. And so just make sure that you have a couple extra batteries like that. I always tell people, buy a pack of those batteries from Amazon, and you'll always have them ready, because while it doesn't go through batteries very fast, if you forget to put the switch in the right position and you pack it up and put it away for a week or something, the battery will be dead. But the batteries are really cheap. I think it's $8. I got a 20 pack. So very affordable.
That's exactly what I did with my microphone today. I forgot to turn it off. I used another microphone. I filmed the video and I forgot to turn it off. Like I got some batteries. Yeah, that's great. And Larry, do you have any tips on how to finish your video, or how to do you do any post productions of it after there? Like you had the Zoom conference call or just Zoom meeting. What would you do after that?
Yeah, with Zoom, you don't really have post production. With Facebook Live, you don't have post production. You're just doing whatever you're doing live. So do your best to try and look and sound good on camera. Set up good lighting, good camera position, and look at the camera. Try and make eye contact as much as possible. Those things that we already talked about. But when it comes to editing after the fact, there are so many different options. There are great editing programs for the iPad. There are great editing programs on the Mac and on the PC. Some are free, some you have to pay for. I just happen to have settled on one on the Mac that does a good job of capturing software. So you remember all those years that I was teaching Photoshop. Well, that's a program on the computer that I wanted to show people what I'm doing in Photoshop. So I got some software years ago called ScreenFlow. And ScreenFlow is great for capturing only on ScreenFlow is Mac only, but it only captures on a Mac, but it does a lot more, and it's a full-blown video editor. And since I'm using ScreenFlow already to capture things that are going on my computer, I just use that as my editor. If you really go high end, you can get something like Premiere Pro. But the problem with using Premiere Pro and learning it, it's very complicated. It is the most comprehensive piece of software you can use. But the big problem there is it requires a lot of horsepower too. So your computer, Mac or PC, is going to have lots and lots and lots of RAM. You're going to have a new, fast, big processor. You're going to have to spend a lot of money if you want to do that. And in business, what you may end up benefiting from is learn how to do some of this simple video capture yourself. And then you may or may not want to learn how to edit the video. That's a can of worms. If you don't want to learn how to edit the video, go to some place like Upwork or Fiverr or something like that and say, I've got this video footage. What would you charge me to edit it? Show me a sample of your work. Obviously, you want to do this when you're not in a big rush for a project, and then see if you can get somebody to edit the work. And that way you don't have to learn the business of editing. It just kind of depends on how deep do you personally want to get into it. And if you don't want to get into it, just capture it yourself and pass it off to an editor at one of these work for hire websites.
Well, Larry, if you coach your client with all of these tips, after that they go and do their stuff, what other common mistakes they still make even after you given so great introduction to everything?
Well, thank you. It's different with everybody. So I have clients in the local market, and I'll set up and be recording them in their office talking about their business. Now, this is great. It's a lot of fun because everybody knows their own business really well. So they'll get talking about their own business. Well, one of the problems is I have a couple of clients that are just way too loud. For some reason, they just really talk loud, and it's almost like they're yelling. So I'm having a conversation with them right before I flip the camera on. Then I turn on the camera, then they're really loud. And so I have to go, wait. Okay, let's go back and do that. Dial down the volume a little bit. Oh, was I loud again? And then I have some clients, same Central Florida business market, that are just way too quiet. And I have to say, okay, now you have to speak up a little bit. Some people want to seem really smart on camera, and the smartest people that they've run across in their life use really big words. So they think of college professors, scientists, things like that. And so then they start utilizing multisyllabic language. Why would you say utilize when you can say the word use? Be casual. Connect with your audience by not using big terms and hard to understand terminology. Stay away from that. You want to be an expert at whatever it is, whether it's insurance or auto repair or whatever it is that you do. Be that expert, but be friendly, like you're talking to somebody that just walked into your company and they're not an expert and they want to know about, I'm going to have this dental procedure. How does this work? Well, you explain that in simple language, and you're going to get more connection with your audience. So everybody makes different kinds of mistakes. Some people can't look at the camera. They always look away. And that's going to be a bit of a problem. Some people say a lot. They uh, and it's very distracting. And so with different people, I have different solutions. And what I tell people that are saying a lot is, first of all, you say, okay, well, don't say and I'll stop filming every time you say it. And so then they start talking, and as soon as they say I go, okay, cut. And they go, oh man, I said it again. And then they start becoming aware of it. And it's a little bit different thing with different people. I remember 10 years ago, I was doing some videos, just some tips videos to help a group of people. My videos were going out to 70,000 members of the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And I was giving them tips and tricks and updates of some things that were available on the web. And I had what I would call a default phrase that I would always go back to. I would say, so check it out. Man, I said the phrase check it out so many times. And that's not a common problem, but having a piece of language that you go back to all the time is a common problem. So a word that you say all the time. One guy I know says now all the time. Now, what you're going to do is, okay, now when you finish that, now what you want to do, okay, so now let's start again. Now we're going to try, and it just gets so annoying, and they don't even know they're doing it. So it's hard to answer what is a common problem because there are lots and lots and lots of them. But once you start watching yourself, and this is the solution for all of those common problems, do a recording of yourself. That's not mission critical. I'm not talking about a live Zoom. I'm talking about do a recording of yourself. Do it with your smartphone or whatever, and then watch it back and see if you do any of those things. See what things you're doing wrong, and it'll get really obvious to you, and then you'll be able to correct it.
That's interesting for you to say that, because I remember when I recorded my first interviews in the podcast, I've done the transcriptions with that. So I put the audio into the service and they do auto transcription for me, and then I edit the text. So my guests talk like for 5 minutes and I do just a few changes there, but then I ask a question or just insert some few sentences there. And I have to edit all of this, almost everything. Then I thought I really need to work on my pronunciations. Otherwise, if the system cannot understand that, how people can understand me?
Sure.
Yeah, interesting. And then if you would summarize that a little bit, what would be your 3 steps for our listeners to take within like next few weeks in their next Zoom call that they can apply and look great on camera, sound great?
Well, first of all, get some decent equipment and test first. So get a good microphone or a decent microphone. Again, $20. You don't have to go really expensive. If you want to go wireless microphone, or if you want to buy a podcast microphone, you can, but you don't really need all that stuff. Get some decent lighting. Again, it doesn't have to be expensive, but it does have to be smooth, balanced, controlled lighting for your environment. Get your camera up to a good position. So that's really helpful. Practice that eye contact thing where you're looking at the camera, and then watch some of your videos back. And then the last thing I would say is make sure that you try and stick with casual language. Don't try to impress people with how brilliant you are. Just connect conversationally, and you'll be a whole lot better off.
Make it simple. Fantastic. Larry, thank you so much. That was very interesting, very insightful. I am sure my listeners will get a lot of practical ideas there. And now please share with them how they can connect with you, find out more about your book, and maybe ask you some questions if they have.
Absolutely. I love helping people any way I can. I have a lot of different websites. So if you search for me, you're going to find my YouTube channel. You're going to find a number of different websites, but the best place to go is greatoncamera.com. That's my book. My book that just came out is called Great on Camera. And the website supports the book, but it also has tips and tricks videos. I've got a little blog going there. I've got some simple little classes there. And I've got an email form, so you can fill out a form, shoot me any questions that you have. So if you pick up the book or not, whatever your questions are, feel free to shoot me questions by going to greatoncamera.com.
For sure. Larry is so helpful, so I recommend to check his stuff, to check his YouTube channel, and he really shows and explains everything very simple. I'll put all the links into the show notes, and Larry mentioned several equipment, so everything will be there so you can go and check them out. And Larry, thank you so much for being such an amazing guest today.
Marina, thank you, and thanks for all you're doing on the podcast. I really enjoy it.
Have you noticed that with those little tricks, it is very simple to look good on video calls for Zoom and other online platforms? Also, if you create or would like to create more video content, then watch this video where I share the hacks that will help you to film videos for social media in less than 5 minutes. And please subscribe to the channel for more content like this.